Hi, everyone. Welcome to First Mover. And our guest host all the time is Nathaniel Getzels. I'm Ken Rakowski. Nathaniel, go for it. Where do you want to take us today?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the First Mover. We have a lot to cover. The first thing I wanted to go through was I want to kind of address the elephant in the room as far as real estate, which is everybody's wondering, is there going to be a giant drop, right? Is there going to be some big drop that is due to coronavirus, right? So this is kind of the way I'm looking at it. If you ever have seen the Roadrunner, you know how the Roadrunner is running, and then sometimes over a cliff and there's a big drop below him. I feel like we're right over that right now. However, if you notice, sometimes in the Roadrunner, you can hit, he has so much momentum, he hits the other cliff and he never even knows he almost died, right? He almost fell 10 million feet. So I feel like that's where we are. And I'm pretty sure we're going to make it to that other side of the cliff.
I honestly have no idea what you just said. I have no idea what that even means. What are you
Frankie
saying?
got it. Frankie got it.
Frankie understood. She watches cartoons. If you watch cartoons, you get it. So I feel like there's a lot of volatility and there's a big possibility to drop, but I think we have so much momentum and there's so much real money in the market that we're going to get over where there could be a small dip and we're not even going to notice. We're not even going to see it.
Okay, I know you need to be optimistic because that's your job. You're in the industry and you may not be, you're not a pessimist and you're definitely not a pragmatist.
Right.
But I think you're an optimist right now. But
okay.
There is a weird thing going on when it comes to high valued homes. They are selling like hotcakes.
They're selling like hotcakes and they've gone up. Everything over 10 million has gone up more than 10%.
Explain why.
Well, I think there's several reasons for that. The first one is it's less volatile, right? So institutional money has taken a lot of that out of, well, for a while it was coming out of bonds and the stock market, and it moves more into mortgage-backed equities, which means mortgages are easier to get, which means it's easier for people to get mortgages. And then interest rates are so low that people have the ability to buy more properties and more expensive properties than ever before, right? It's safer. You know where your money is. You know it's not going anywhere, and it's insurable. It's very hard to insure $20 million, $30 million. And also, with so much stimulus money coming from the government, I think there's definitely going to be an inflation factor, and you hedge inflation by being in real estate. Okay. So I think those are just some key reasons that high-end real estate is actually doing very well. Also, if you look at the people who are most affected, who had the biggest drops in income, you're looking at people who are making less than $100,000, right? So those are not the people buying 10, 11, $30 million homes, right? It's a different part of the market. So while I think there is going to be an effect from these forbearance, right? Which, if anybody doesn't remember, a forbearance is where you can't pay your mortgage. So you go to your lender and say, I can't pay my mortgage due to this corona. And they say, okay, you don't have to pay us for 3 months. But on that third month, you owe us 4 months of mortgage.
The balloon at the end.
What's that?
The balloon at the end.
Yeah, it's a big balloon. And the difference is, though, so in the last downturn, it was a real estate-led recession, right? So it was a real estate-led drop. So in that case, people didn't have income and people didn't have equity. That's the magic word, the equity. So let's say, the Starbucks guy bought a $2 million house, got a loan he couldn't afford at that time, and then when it was time to go sell, that house was only worth $1 million. So not only could they not sell it, but it had to be foreclosed, short sale, some sort of distressed situation, which brought the whole market down, because if enough of those happen, it brings the whole market down. Now, keep in mind, by the time you're getting short sale or foreclosed on, you probably haven't done deferred maintenance. There's a lot of other negatives. Okay. So now people have more equity than almost ever before in history. And so what you'll see, there will be more houses that come on the market, but for the last 7 years, we've had a lack of inventory. So you will see more activity, but I think at least for a while, it will just increase the velocity of real estate, and you're not going to see a big price drop. It might not go up as fast, but there's such a lack of inventory right now. That's why builder sentiment, as we talked about last week, it's higher than it's been since 1999, right? And builders, they look years out, and they have to look at lots of different metrics. So builders having that much confidence in the market shows that they even know that there's going to be buyers for years to come. That makes sense?
Okay. Let me go to Harak. Harak, you got a question? Go for it, Harak. Harak. Come on, buddy. You could do it. You can do it. Hit.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I was just making a comment that I don't feel like you're going to see a big drop in the near future. Like you said, the last recession was driven by real estate, and leading up to the crash, people were already, I mean, the mortgages were all, none of them were A paper, right? So,
well, not only was it not A paper, it was mirage money.
Exactly.
It wasn't that people were spending too much money. They were spending money that didn't exist. It wasn't anywhere. So now people are buying much lower risk loans is a big part of it.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, I think that maybe in 18 months, 24 months, we'll start to feel the ripple effects of Corona, and only because, number one, we have to wait for all those defaults. If people are not going to go back to work, they're not going to have the income, they're going to default. Right now, courts are closed, or they're going to be backed up. So it's going to be very difficult for, especially in California, for people to get foreclosed upon or to get kicked out of their homes. So I think it's going to drag till probably 2022. But I feel like once those foreclosures start happening and we start getting an REO market again, I think that'll be a catalyst to drive some prices down. Maybe not in the high end market, because I mean, who's buying those properties? That's the 1%, and those people are, I mean, look at the stock market. Those people are not really being affected by what's happening with Corona. The people that are being affected, that aren't going back to work, are probably in the 2 million and less property value.
You know, I just want to say, if you look at Jay Meltulcher, who's a metal guy, he wrote this whole article, of course, what's going on with New York and how New York, it's done. Jerry Seinfeld went after him. It's been pretty interesting watching what James has been going through, basically saying, New York, it's over. It's over. And he misses New York, but he knows he's got to get out. And I'm just telling you guys, it's not about the beauty of LA. I love LA. It's about three things. And Nathaniel, you hear me say them over and over again. The first one is the homeless issue. It's just exploding. The next is the regulation issue. There's too many regulations. And last, of course, is the taxes.
Well, remember, number one, and actually I have something I want to touch on the taxes in a minute, but I'm talking about nationally. I don't just mean LA. I mean the whole country when I'm talking about these statistics.
I'm talking about LA because all my high net worth people,
right,
you know, are all legal.
Now, something, Harak, that's interesting, it's important to remember about REO properties, which is real estate owned properties. So homes that have been foreclosed on and are getting sold by the bank, is they're sold at market rate. So the way that those houses are priced, right, is you have, they do what's called a BPO. So they hire 3 agents who then go out and they each come up with a sales price for the property, and then the bank will take the average price and list it for that, and they won't accept less than that. So unless there's a huge, and I mean huge influx, because we're at a 7-year low for inventory. So unless there's a huge influx of properties on the market, even if there are foreclosures, it's not going to drive the market down dramatically. The way that people get a good deal on real estate owned properties is if there's enough deferred maintenance that the house needs so much work, or there's something that makes it unlendable, and then you can buy it for cash or with a hard money loan. That's where you really get your big value when you're buying bank owned.
Nathaniel, let's do this. Our
Yeah,
feature guest today is Ryan Blair.
that's
Ryan,
right.
who lives in this spectacular, incredible home. You're in the Hills, Palace.
Yeah, Hollywood Hills.
You're in the Hollywood Hills. You've had it for a while, that house.
I've invested in the Hollywood Hills for a while, but I started my career in the foreclosure business. We got up to buying about 120 per year. So I have some insights into foreclosures, how they work, and in the process.
And when I said those three things, I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah.
Bonus, regulation, taxation. What's your thought on that?
Well, I have an 11-year-old son, and having to expose him to this homeless situation and drive him through it and to see how bad it is, there's an effect there. And I have started contemplating, and I know a lot of high net worth people that are trying to persuade me to move to places like Austin because of the taxes. You know, different people are moving out of state right now.
I'll go to Austin.
Yeah, I'm not leaving for quite some time. But that said, it really depends. But I'll tell you that I'm more concerned right now because the thing that's powering the market is the world is drunk with this stimulus money. Yep. So everybody's drunk. Yes. And the bottom hasn't fallen out, right? I know people that work for me that never had, $5,000 in the bank. And now their household has like 40 in the bank because everyone got 5,000 plus X amount of dollars per week. And I know people right now that are rich. In fact, I read a report that said that if you had under 5,000 in the bank prior to Corona, you're up 40%. So everyone that was living paycheck to paycheck, and that couldn't afford a medical bill is up 40%. And that's the bottom of the market driving the top, right? Those are the people that are buying the products of the guy that has the $10 million house. Those are the people that are funding this economy right now. That's the bottom of it. So when the stimulus money runs out completely, and right now we're in an election, so no one wants to be a bad cop. No one wants to pull stimulus money. And so the good news is we're going to continue being drunk in this existing marketplace because everybody's going to be fighting to give money away to get themselves reelected. But after that drops and we start to see inflation, which is, going to be a little while, and then the banks release the moratorium on evictions and on foreclosures, and you really start to see the rational market, then we're going to be in for, a whole different environment that we're in now. So my advice to people in the industry is take the money off the table as fast as you can, work 10 times harder than you ever have, seize the day and maximize the opportunity now, because that opportunity might not be there 6 months from now.
When you say take the money off the table, what do you mean?
You sell, if anybody, get more listings, do more work to acquire more listings, to move more properties, do whatever it takes to move money off the table. And the other thing that's really concerning is the commercial marketplace, right? Like, are people ever going to want to go back to an office building? I'm not, right? Right now, I've become very comfortable working with Zoom and working with other tools. And I know that my team has, this used to be an idea like that we had, but I never really could be comfortable with it. And now I much prefer it rather than driving to an office or renting. I used to have $100,000 a month office space in LA, and I used to have to drive to it and suffocate there all day, basically. Now I can work out of my home.
With didgeridoos.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now it's the norm. We can take it and it's acceptable. But let's go back to Nathaniel's point. It's a good market right now. It's a good time to sell more than buy, right?
Well, it depends. Yeah, certainly it's a seller's market, right? Because people are buying. I know people, there's so much money. And a dear friend of mine he went public, Dan Gilbert, the founder of Quicken Loans, right? I mean, interest rates are low, which is really a huge driver of the marketplace. But once we start to see inflation and the stimulus money, I mean, the government is just giving money away for free. I know people in foreign countries, they're able to get, money from the government, meaning they're US citizens getting money from the government, but they're living abroad right now.
But see, that's why it might be a good reason to buy if you have a lot of cash sitting there, because it could hedge the inflation when that happens.
Real estate is a great inflation hedge for sure. Yeah. My biggest concern though is if restaurants don't return, if the unemployment stays at these particular rates, and the government is no longer funding this with heightened federal unemployment and state unemployment, once that money runs out, who's going to be buying the goods and services that pay for the $10 million home? Right? Because my lifestyle was financed by 1 million people that paid me $200 for my products, right? That's basically how I built my company, was off 1 million people that could afford to pay me $200 for my products, right? I sold weight loss products by Salas. So I had 1 million people out there. So I was able to buy the big homes and, buy, $20 million worth of real estate in the hills. But I was able to do that because I had a whole bunch of people down the chain that were buying my goods and services. When we see that change, we're going to see a lot of challenges. And right now, like everybody said, there is no foreclosure market, right? Like, and the courts are backed up and all that stuff. So like this is an odd marketplace, seize a day, take advantage of it until people start to have, till the correction occurs. And there will be a correction. There always is.
Are you selling right now, Ryan? You have tons of properties. You're getting rid of them?
Yeah, I've sold a bunch of them, but I'm not really in a position where when I say right now, my advice is like what to do over the next 5 years. I'm more thinking, 20, 30 years down the line. And so at that particular case, we're going to get through Corona and real estate prices are going to go up over the long haul. They always do.
So Ryan, would you say with the low interest rates, it might be good for investment? Sorry, what's that, Ken?
I'm going to dive into this topic more on Saturday, but I just want you guys to think about something that's more around evolutionary process of humans. Now, all you guys have been in metal a long time. You've made tons of money on my predictions of things from CRISPR to crypto. I told you about crypto years before it became something. So I'm just saying human conditioning is this. If we look at when different revolutions happened in transportation, the wheel, the horse and buggy, trains, planes, and cars, it changed the way we lived and worked massively.
Absolutely.
I believe Zoom is teleportation, another form of transportation. And because of this, if you own a house in Ojai, it's as if you live in LA now.
Yeah.
Because it's the same as if you're in Svalbard, in an island in the northern Atlantic. It doesn't matter because of teleportation. So
that's right.
To justify taxes, regulations, and homelessness, I'm just saying, Ryan, I know we love LA. We love the mountains. We love the weather. But maybe it's not a 5 to 10 year situation. Maybe it's a 2-decade change where people are going to go, they're going to live in San Luis Obispo or leave the state, and then a generation later saying, you know what, let's come back.
Well,
certainly depends on how much civil unrest we're to endure, how much, what's going to come as a result of, people are triggered right now and rightfully so in many particular cases, but living on a social media world and people that are, who knows what's going to happen as a result. Once the stimulus money runs out and the unemployment, if we don't have a massive correction, then we're going to be in trouble.
Last thing before you go, Nathaniel, I just want to say, this is really 1968, everyone. It's 1968. Nixon was running for president. He basically said, I am the law and order president. Law and order. There was chaos going on in Miami. There was riots, very similar to what this situation looks like now. And what happened is it took 15, almost 20 years for the United States to bounce back after it took Reagan's end term to turn things around. So we're looking at Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan. So I'm just saying, guys, if you start to look at 1968, this is right when Martin Luther King, when Martin Luther King was killed. That's when this turmoil started, 1968. And we're looking at almost a carbon copy of back then. And what happened was people ran to the suburbs. They left the big city. Right. So I'm just saying this history repeats and we're seeing it again. Just be aware of that. So
remember, we talked about how people were moving out of New York and to Greenwich and Connecticut. 16,000 people have already moved to Greenwich from New York. And then the Hamptons have gone up over 25% because people are making their second homes their first homes now.
Yeah, but it's also Ryan said, nobody wants to work together anymore.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to. If you look at, I think it's actually a bigger change than people realize because even in 1968, you still were bound by your commute, right? Historically, we have the way cities have grown from the days of the missionaries were all about the commute. I mean, if you look at it, everything along the freeways, by access, even where Ryan is in the Hollywood Hills, it is like a mecca for access. If you look at the number of accessible freeways just to the Hollywood Hills, it's designed to be a hub of the city because of that, right? So now you're seeing a bigger change than people realize, which is like, if you look at, they're talking about putting that space thing out in Palmdale, which, you know, you could buy a 10,000 square foot house with a Caesar's Palace pool in Palmdale. I mean, with the Caesar's Palace pool for $1 million in Palmdale, right? But when you leave your house, you're in Palmdale, right? So I think like there's going to be a big push into places like Camarillo, where the weather is amazing. It's 70 degrees there more than anywhere else in the state. It's quiet. It's Ventura County. There isn't a big homeless problem, you know, things like that. Like right now, I'm sitting in a house in Bell Canyon. And one of the things that people love is it's gated. The whole city's gated, right? There's three fences to come up to this property. So I think it's actually a bigger change because where people live isn't going to matter as much. A lot more people are going to do what my little brother did, which is he moved to, well, I mean, they're not going to move there, but he moved to Tulsa and pays for his entire existence out there, making the same amount of money, working remote. He rents his house here and pays for everything. So he basically lives for free, which lots of people could do if you don't mind living in a small town. Now, you're seeing a big migration, and next week we're going to have somebody from Mobile, Alabama, and talk about the growth in small towns. But you're seeing a lot of people move to small towns. Ken, I can barely hear you. Are you there?
Nathaniel, I think you're thinking about you're looking at real estate, but I think we have to look at the people that buy it. And if taxes persist to go up in California, if you make over $400,000, people go, oh my God, that's a lot. No, it's not. It really isn't.
No, it's
really not. You're starting to hit the upper echelons. And if what Ryan said, we're going to have to pay for this money somehow. This money that's out. Ryan, you have to be looking at your taxes, knowing that they're going to come after you. Yeah. And they're going to start looking at your capital gains. They're going to start looking. You don't want to hide your money illegally. You want to do it truthfully, honestly. And there's a premium to pay living here right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I moved to Detroit to build a building, and the state of California audited me, and they looked at my cell phone records, they looked at everything I bought, and I ended up having to settle with them, but they are relentless. Like if you leave the state of California, they're going after any money they can get their hands on. And it was painful. I ended up settling for over $1 million. But I moved to Detroit, I legally did, and they still went after any money and any business I did in the state of California.
Because you moved to Detroit.
Ryan, for your investment properties,
what's that?
A lot, right?
What's that?
Have you found that you're paying a lot on your investment properties though, or that you can deduct enough that it works out? Because I mean, there's you know, lots of different things you can deduct on your investment properties, like basically everything.
Yeah, I try to deduct every single thing I possibly can, but in the state of California, it's a huge income tax, right? So you're talking 14% or whatever the number is. And
14.5 going up to 15, eventually 20.
Yeah, going up to 15, yeah. So I mean, but you know, the thing for me is I'll pay 15% for the better quality of life, but if I have to, you know, fight the homeless situation and fight regulations of doing business, then I'm not going to pay 15% for that luxury. It's like Ken, you are perfectly right. But the homeless thing to me, when a friend of mine propositioned me about leaving the state today, in fact, a high net worth individual, and the thing that he brought up was homeless. The thing that I thought deeply about was, how long am I going to tolerate this environment? Like, how long am I going to, you know, drive through a war zone to take my kid to school?
Well, that's why people move to Calabasas and Westlake Village. You get the quality of life without the homeless.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like the Bell Canyons of the place. It's all gated. I mean, you've seen a huge boom in places like Hidden Hills, which the whole city's gated, and then you're surrounded by Calabasas, which is.
Real quick, let's go up to Gary. Gary Scher. Gary's up in Seattle.
Oh,
hey,
sure.
Gary, I want to unmute you.
You can tell from the background.
What's that?
You can tell by the background.
Yeah, you that. Gary, you're in the. Are you in Redmond? Where are you?
Yeah, in Redmond.
So you never go into Seattle?
No, I mean, before COVID, I would, you know, twice a year maybe, and now not at all. But
so the whole idea of the homeless issue that's happening in Seattle, you don't even see it in Redmond. So, and property values are going pretty well.
yeah, we see it a little bit in Redmond. I mean, you know, it's just a tiny bit. There's we're building transit here. We have great buses, but they're building trains and expanding it. And there's a big worry that the homeless problem will increase out in the suburbs once the light rail comes in.
Well, we saw that with Santa Monica even more
Yeah.
with the rail system coming in. It did change things. But
Oh, that light rail's a mess in Santa Monica.
but when you look in where you're at versus Seattle, it's two different worlds, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and it's separated by a lake and a bridge, and so it's 10 miles, but it's a light year away.
It is. And property values are real good up there, aren't they?
Yeah, it's been really strong. And the house across the street from us sold in 2 days. Friend of mine sold the next neighborhood over in 2 days. Neighbor of his sold in 2 days. Part of that, I think, is people want to get out of the city and get into the suburbs, both, with the city problems you've got in general, but then with COVID, it's like, hey, if you're going to be locked down and work from home, be in a nice house in the suburbs instead of an apartment in the city.
Yeah. We just lost Ryan, by the way. Sorry, Ryan had to go. But Nathaniel, I believe like what Gary's doing, it's almost like you need to become a super agent where you look at all the locations. Remember at one point in time,
Oh, absolutely.
I remember life insurance agents were only able to sell one type of policy. It's New York Life or Mutual, whatever it was. And you go, well, wait a second, where can I get everything? And all of a sudden, I forget what insurance company came out that were able to sell everything. It's like, oh my God, that's the best. You generally are focused on one area, but if you could start looking at everywhere in the United States, it's opportunity. Because Gary's got zero income tax being Washington. Right, Gary?
That's correct. We got high sales tax and high property tax. We had this conversation in Williams Show a while
Exactly.
ago.
High sales tax, high property tax. And like Texas, everyone says no income tax or low income tax, but you have high property tax.
Yeah.
Right.
But I looked on a chart. We're still like 35th or out of 50 or so in terms of the best tax or lowest tax rate. So basically 34 states have higher taxes than Washington. So we're down there.
We got to look at the entire cost of living too. Like that, we went through that a little bit last week about, because it's grocery costs, it's gas costs, it's not just taxes, right? Taxes are, if you only look at taxes, it's a different thing. I mean, like with investment properties, you can deduct basically everything off your taxes. So to me, that it's your main home and your state of residence is the more important for taxes, but it's also where you live, so you have to look at the cost of living there.
I like what you said about looking at other areas. You're in Bell Canyon, which is
right,
which is not LA County.
That's right. The gate's LA County, but the house is actually Ventura County.
So the house
absolutely gorgeous.
20% less than if it was in LA County, right?
What's that?
It's probably 20% less because it's not in LA County.
What is 20% less?
The house, because it's in Ventura.
The cost? No.
No, meaning it would be probably more expensive if it was in LA because the taxes, the expenses, and just saying it's in LA, it would be more. Or do you think it's actually?
I don't think that, not in this case, no. It depends where you are. So even look at Malibu, right? 20% of Malibu's in Ventura County. And the prices are just, it's rural or the urban parts of Malibu. So I don't think it's worth less because it's in Ventura County. It's a little bit more attractive because your taxes are slightly less because you're not paying LA city tax.
You want us to show us the house?
What's that?
You want to show us the house?
Sure.
What do you got there?
I'm just gonna pick this bad boy up here.
What is it?
We're doing a little gardening. So we'll start with outside.
You're not doing any gardening. You have hired somebody to do the gardening.
Wow.
So this house sits on a cliff or on a mountain, right?
This house has a private mountain. It's about 31 acres. So here's the view.
Push your camera down a little more.
And this whole mountain here is on the property. That's actually an art piece that was done by Ruben Rojas, who does all the famous love paintings all over LA. This wall alone in a couple of years is probably going to be worth $30,000 alone. So we're going to pop back inside. Kind of see behind the velvet ropes there. So something that's really cool, something that's interesting about luxury is very often unquantifiable, right? It's beauty, it's specific things. So all through the kitchen here, you actually have real mother of pearl. So that whole wall is mother of pearl. Can you see that? I can't see what you're seeing because I'm carrying the computer.
What does that mean, mother of pearl? What is that?
Mother of pearl is it's this right here, and it's a very expensive material. You'll often see that look, but it'll be fake. It won't be real mother of pearl. So as you can see, every room here has this massive volume. You have really high doors, big rooms, big light, big windows, but I want to get to the middle of the house here. This is your living space, gorgeous, open. There's views basically in every angle of the house because the house is so big and the property is so big. And I want to show you this. This is these digital picture frames. I don't know if you can see it or if it just looks black. Oh, maybe you can't see it. Okay. So I want to show you this, this room over here. So this is, I would make it a man cave, but it's your screening room, it's your playroom. It's absolutely a huge, gorgeous room. Can you see that? Ken, you there?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just making sure.
James is filling in for me now.
So this property is actually triple gated. So it's in Bell Canyon, which is completely guard gated, the whole city. And then there's 2 other gates to get up into the property. So just to give you an idea of how massive
You have
this
that
property
St.
is.
Louis couple there to guard against protesters coming in?
That's right, exactly. Well, we're so far, that's actually something, it's a big push towards security and space. And one of the big differences is a lot of people make their house like a compound, right? And the problem with having a compound usually is you feel locked in. This kind of property, you really feel like everybody's pushed out and you have room to roam. Like everybody's locked out and you have a giant mountain all to yourself. That's completely gated. And you're literally, it's on a mountain, so you feel above everything. I don't know if you guys get an idea.
Nathaniel, let's talk about something that's important. And you brought this up to me the other day. How do you price a piece of real estate? How do you determine what the market value is? Because as you know, many property owners fall in love with their home. They fall in love with the property.
That's right. That's the biggest problem. People fall in love with their home and then they think that the emotion that they feel in their property is going to translate to a value. So there's a few different things. For most homes, most homes, you can use what's called a comparative analysis, which is where you take similar homes that have sold in the area and you look at their average price and where the market's going, and you take what they've sold for and where the market's going, and if it's going up, you price a little bit above it, and if it's going down, you price a little bit below it. Now with luxury properties specifically, it's more complex than that because you're not just going for a price per square foot, right? So you have to look at a lot of factors: view, privacy, location, how the house is situated. For example, if you go to a property that we shot at a few weeks ago, that property is actually built at a very unique angle. So it sticks out from the hill in a specific way so that you get an amazing view off that house while really you're facing inside a canyon, right? This property is on the top of a mountain and you have a view from every direction and it's a different gorgeous view, but you have ultimate privacy and it's like a true compound, right? Plus, you look at the finishes. So finishes in luxury properties are much more important than other properties because they're more specialized, right? Like that mother of pearl, I mean, that wall right there, that's probably a $15,000 wall, just a mother of pearl, right? So, but you take what the market is, which is what other things are selling for. You take the specifics of your property and you add or subtract based on those. And then that's how you determine the price.
But again, a lot of those amenities, like that house we saw a few weeks ago in Hidden Hills, I mean, in the Hollywood Hills, he had a lot of unique things in there that the neighbors would not have had.
That's right. And that's actually, so that's where you run into some trouble sometimes, because there is a value and there's a construction cost of that, but there's also, it's a very unique thing. So maybe somebody doesn't want, you know, pedestal floors everywhere, or they don't want that style of
Pearl wall.
What's that?
I want that pearl wall.
Right, the mother of pearl wall. Not everybody wants that. However, this house, it tells a story. It tells the same story throughout it, and it's gorgeous. And that's a very in thing to have, right? But so when you make changes to your house, if it's just for investment purposes, you really want to be careful about what you do. Like if you're redoing the kitchen and bathrooms, great. If you're redoing the master, you're probably doing it wrong almost every time.
I get it, but you know what's in now may not be in later on. My members only jacket was in for a while. And
That's right.
Where it doesn't work anymore.
Well, see, and that's a thing. Like modern houses, when they're in, you're paying a premium for the modern house. However, if you buy that, modern's not going to be in forever, so you're going to have you're going to pay a penalty to own that later.
Okay.
Right. So, Ken, I wanted to just I had a lot of people over the week ask me how they buy investment properties.
Go for it.
So I'm just going to go over that real quick. And if anybody has questions, just stop me. Host disabled. Oh, can I share my screen, Ken? Can I have the power?
You got it. Go for it.
Okay. So PowerPoint. Okay. So first, there we go. Okay. Can you see that? Ken, can you see that? I can't hear you. Yes. Okay, great. Okay. So the first thing is you want to educate yourself on what you want, right? So figure out if you want to flip, if you want to do a rental, and the general idea of what you want to accomplish. Step 2, practice the math. Go through what the numbers are and what you want to get out of it. So like, for example, normally, if you get 8%, you did good. If you did 10%, that's better. And 15% is pretty spectacular for a return. Step 3, you start looking for the deals. Just start looking for the deals. Go online, start looking what's out there, get realistic about what the market you're interested has and what the prices look like. Get a good agent or an advisor, get a team. I would say not just an agent, get a good CPA, get a good agent, and then get a good loan broker. Right? Step 4, get pre-approved. Make sure you can actually qualify for the amount of money you need to achieve your goal. Then start analyzing a deal. Take one deal and go deep. I mean, go deep every single day. If you're really going to do property investment, you want to really drill down on one deal a day, and that'll make you better and better until you find the right deal, right? So then, number 7, make an offer on the deal that you've been practicing. And because you already know what's out there, you know what you want to get, you've analyzed it, you know that works. And then number 8, repeat 6 and 7 until you have enough properties that you're satisfied. But this is how to start with number 1. And this is the formula that people with 20, 30, 40, 100 homes, this is the formula that you use to get there. This is how they start. So that's the basic idea. And a good suggestion for people, I can stop sharing my screen now. For people who maybe don't think they have the capital, I would suggest getting a duplex or triplex and living in it, living in one unit and renting out the other, or the other 2 or 3, while you build up the capital for your next properties. Because you have somewhere to live, you can manage it, you don't have to pay a management fee, and you can deduct basically everything. You can deduct driving to the property, you can deduct your taxes, you can deduct your appreciation, you can actually depreciate that property while you're getting appreciation on it, if that makes sense.
How easy is it to get money right now, Nathaniel?
So it's much easier than it was at the beginning of Corona, especially if you're doing less, like a lower, not a jumbo loan. So if you do not a jumbo loan, it's very easy to get the money. If you do a jumbo loan, it's getting easier every day. And if you're going to do private money, non-QM, which is basically non-conforming lenders, are back in the market, and they're coming in stronger and stronger because there's a lot of money backing mortgages now. So a lot of that institutional money is now backing mortgages because it's less volatile, and it's a consistent place for them to put their money, and they'll make consistent income on people who are buying properties. So either way, either the people keep paying, right? Because they're only giving low risk loans, and worst comes to worst, they get the property, resell it, and they'll make money. So the private lenders is different than a bank. A bank really doesn't necessarily want to foreclose as a business practice regularly. They will, but private lenders, they're much more likely to foreclose faster, and have it as part of their business plan. For example, when people ask you about, a lot of people recently have asked me about seller financing, right? Now that sounds great, right? I already live in the house, maybe I'm paying rent. Maybe I just want to buy it from the landlord, or, oh, I want to buy this house and I'll rent it because I can't qualify for a loan right now, but I will later. So this usually becomes more of a predatory practice, because what ends up happening is the owner knows, they've run the numbers, and they know that if you can't qualify for a loan, you probably are not going to be able to maintain the house long term. So what often ends up happening is the buyer will put down a down payment, right? Because you have to, it's called renting with an option to buy, but that option costs money. So basically at a certain point in your rental, you get the option, which is basically a first right of refusal to purchase the property or not. Now, if you do that, you make a down payment at that time on top of paying for the option at the initial start of that lease. So if you don't move forwards, they keep the option money, you keep renting, no problem. If you do move forwards, you make an additional down payment and then start paying the owner as the lender. And that will work if you can afford those payments. However, usually, and I think it was something like 8 out of 10 times, the owner ends up getting that property back because that buyer defaults at some point down the way. And then the owner keeps all the money that the buyer's put in, keeps the rent, keeps the option money, keeps the down payment, keeps all the interest and principal payments that have been made already. So it's a very dangerous road to go down. But to answer your core question, money from a bank is very easy to get right now.
Guys, if you have questions or anything, put inside the chat. Because we only have about 15 minutes left, and we can dive into it.
Okay, so then I have a question here. So how do you find
let him
duplex?
ask.
What's that?
Let him ask the question.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, man.
Sorry about that. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. So I've been doing some research for a while. How do you find these deals in LA, duplexes and triplexes?
Right. So right now the inventory is very low, but I would suggest finding a good agent who's willing to work hard and maybe do some searching. So look online, look on the MLS, look on Coming Soons, look on all the private exclusives from all the different companies. And then if you don't find it, identify, so you can find it that way, that's number one. Number two, if you don't see it that way, identify 10 properties that you think would fit your model and call them, email them, maybe even write offers and just go up to the owners and see if they're willing to sell. Very often people have things going on that they don't tell you about because you don't know them, but they're willing to sell with the right offer. So I would partner with a good lender, a good broker, and just explain the model that you want, have it really, really well defined, practice the numbers, practice a deal a day. And then once you really know exactly what you want, it's out there. You just have to find it.
Gotcha.
I was still surprised on what Shaheen said about buying houses on eBay.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've done that. I've bought properties all over the country on eBay. It's amazing. It works.
Because when I type houses on eBay, this is what I get. I get like bouncy houses.
You have to go to real estate.
Oh, okay. So it's not
Yeah.
the bouncy houses. Okay, just want to make sure.
I mean, the bouncy houses are fun, and though you can put those in your yard, but living in them, it starts to smell weird after a while.
And it's not good resale value.
No, not the best. Not the best, especially after they start to deflate. There's a deflation value. It's a different kind of deflation.
There's a deflation value. Let's go to Edwin. Edwin!
Hey, what's up, Ken? Hey, Nathaniel.
How's it
Quick
going? I like
questions.
that painting.
Thank you. So back in 2007, at the height of the market, I bought a property in Fresno, California, and paid $150. And since it has not gotten anywhere near what I paid for it, it's currently worth probably about $83,000. It's a small two-bedroom condo. Is there anything that I could do to recoup my losses, or am I just shit out of luck?
It might catch on fire soon.
Hey, if there's a ride in the right place. No, outside of a loss like that, an insurance claim situation, have you looked at doing short-term rentals there? Because on average, you get about 30% more short-term than long-term rentals.
Yeah, I'm renting it out, and I don't really have to come out of pocket very much at all. So, but I'm just worried about, will I ever, when I sell it, make any money?
Right. I get it. Well, we can look at where the market's going there and figure out the best timing to sell it. I mean, if the market's gone, why do you think it's gone down so, it hasn't come back in that area? Is there something going on? Is there market conditions? Is there something in that building maybe? Maybe they have a bad HOA?
No, at the time, it was an area that was kind of exploding. They were going to do some things, some stadiums around the area. They didn't, and it kind of just stagnated. And so, I have a long-term renter, that's cool. But, every time I look at it, I'm like, damn, it just sucks.
Right. I would maybe look at when the renter moves out, converting it to short-term, because you'll make more money that way. And what you can do is then try to sell it as an investment property using your rent as the rationalization for the sales price. So you can maybe ask for more by going, look, this is how much I'm making from it right now. So you can get some more money for it that way, selling as investment property versus selling as a regular residence.
Or
I like the fire idea better.
Yeah, that's probably easier.
And call it a haunted house and sell it for 300 times the market value.
I know, that was crazy.
That was the craziest one.
Well, in some parts of the world, you actually have to disclose if it's haunted or not. Parts of the East Coast have that.
Same thing if somebody died in the house, you have to disclose it.
Within 5 years, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Go to Mr. James Mendel. Hey, James.
Hello. This is so. I'm so glad to hear to get this information, Nathaniel. It's stuff that I think we have a good basic knowledge of, but it's great to review it. I have two sets of questions. I'll try to make them quick. The first is the current jumbo loan capper in LA is somewhere around 750,000. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then just out of curiosity, this is a house that you bought or that you're representing, the one that you're sitting in?
Oh, the one I'm in is actually the one that Darius built. I have it. We have it on sale right now for $5.634 million, which is a steal because down the street is where Joe Rogan used to live in a house that wasn't nearly as nice or new on a much smaller lot that sold for just over $5 million as well.
Lisa and I will give it serious consideration. Meanwhile, we're actually really thinking about Nevada and Las Vegas. The tax situation there is incredible.
Right.
There's no sales tax. No, I'm sorry, there's no state tax. The sales tax is 4.9. No, the sales tax is 4.5. The property tax is 0.69. We could easily save 100 grand there when we factor in that a house is about 40% the price of an LA house, a beautiful house. So you can get a gorgeous 3,500 square foot new home in Vegas for about $1 million.
Absolutely. You could do that in Lancaster too, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, but you still have the state taxes then.
But does your master going to look like this?
Um,
No? Okay.
well,
Probably
it
bigger.
looks like a white box to me, but I'm sure it's fabulous there.
Oh, here's the view.
Oh, wonderful view, wonderful stuff. No, and like I said, we'll give it serious consideration. This is just,
Right.
pretend this is for a friend.
Right.
I wonder if are there people in metal who live in Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah,
Chris
there
Voss,
are, absolutely.
Chris lives out there. We have a bunch of people. Actually, I'm taking Sandy's mom there this weekend because she just moved out there.
I would
Yes, she
love to
did.
talk to a few metal guys about that. So Nathaniel,
What is it you're trying to achieve other than a lower cost of living?
Well,
Because that's what you have to
change.
look at. When you choose
an
where to
interesting
go,
change. We're very beguiled with the idea that Ken has been talking about for weeks, and that we hear from many other people, which is you no longer have to live somewhere because you have to live there. You can
That's
live
right.
in anywhere that you choose.
and you're
And I
really
think
going to
Vegas has a very beguiling culture and creative community to it. We love the idea of getting double or triple the house that we get there than that we will get here, even though we live in a nice place now. And we're kind of itching just to make a change.
Valid points.
So you think you can achieve the lifestyle that you want there and it costs you less, basically.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. But the lifestyle part, the heat, it's a different weather, that
We'll
sort of thing.
travel then with all the money he just saved.
There you
Can
go.
I
Buy
chime
a
in?
big air conditioner and you'll be fine.
Can I chime
It
in on
remains to
that
be
one?
yes, you betcha. It remains to be seen. We're talking about the heat and the cold, especially the heat. We know how hot it is there.
Right.
It's a 5 mile drive back to LA, or a 5 hour drive back to LA. Who
Or
cares?
4.
Or $29.99 on Spirit Airlines.
Love
Come on
that.
back.
Could make a metal meeting with that.
There you go.
I don't
You
see
can hang out with us. Don't worry about it.
Do you live there?
No, you could come back and hang out with Lloyd, though,
Oh,
when you come
okay.
back here.
Yeah, but I bet
Come back.
But I bet you Lloyd's thinking about moving also, right, Lloyd?
If I move, it's going to be up to near San Luis Obispo, at our house up there. We have a house up there.
That makes sense.
I mean, the other logical choice for us would be back to South Florida, which is where we have family. So no state tax either in South Florida.
Yep, that's a big one. So,
I think Darius wanted to say something.
Darius?
Yeah, okay. So I lived in Vegas for 2.5 years. I was building houses over there. So to answer your question, yeah, you do save, but your electrical bill is through the roof. I mean, when we were there, we were paying a lot in electricity just to keep all the air conditioning and everything going on. During the winter, the gas bill was up through the roof. So, you have to look at it from that point of view. And yeah, there's no taxes and this, and that. But at the same time, it gets really boring really quick. You can say, oh yeah, we can go eat at the casinos, but it's not that way. It's the same thing if someone were to ask you, how come you don't go to Disneyland every day? Right? Or you don't go to the beach every day. And it's because you live there, you're not going to do it. So we've experienced it. And it was one of those things where, coming back to LA was definitely a move for us because it just wasn't worth it at the end of the day.
Just
Interesting.
And guys, look at, I think you see the map, right?
Yes.
So look at Nevada. If you want to move for a lower actual cost of living, it doesn't look like Nevada's your move.
So James, so what we did, because I like stats, I went and looked at where Whole Foods, Erewhon, and Equinox are building new locations throughout the United States. And I found where they would all intersect. And you may not like what I'm about to say, but it was Southern Florida. It was more towards the Brickell, which is south of Miami, is the new hotspot for the whole United States. Lloyd's shaking his head right now. That is where the new lifestyle is Southern Florida. Just as hot, right? Muggy, but that, zero taxes, state taxes, or income taxes.
It might be underwater in 10 years, but it's still
There's
a nice
that.
place.
Let's take a high floor.
I would be a little more
Exactly.
interested then. I'm just saying that's where Sandy and I probably will eventually end up, is that part of Florida.
Yeah, a lot of the higher ground is being gentrified, if you will. So
Right, the higher floors.
it,
Right.
it is. No joke. No
it's
joke.
flooding. It's insane. I'd really be interested in talking to other folks who have lived in Vegas, and that's not to discount what I'm sorry, who was it? Was it Darius that was contributing that? That was fascinating, because from what I've been reading, the utility bills are substantially lower, at least per megawatt or kilowatt. It just seems like an interesting idea for us, but and we'll probably do an exploratory trip there in October once it stops being so hot.
Right.
And we both love California, and maybe we'll wind up in a place where that is a little bit further out. That's much easier to get back to everything. That's intriguing too. I love the city of Ventura, Ojai. Well, Ojai is probably too remote, but the idea of going into another state and having an entirely different experience is very very beguiling.
But why is it too remote? Where do you need to get to?
Oh, if we want to come back and Lisa and I do a lot of movie premieres, screenings, industry parties and events, things like that. So we would be giving that up to some extent, although there's a fairly robust community in Vegas as well.
Yeah, but you said, so Ojai would be too far because you're not really near any of that community. In Vegas, there's some of it, right?
Yeah. Ojai's a little too country, a little too remote. I'd much rather live near the beach. I'd love to live on, in the city of Ventura near the beach, or.
Well, Oxnard Shores, you can live by the beach for very significantly less. I mean,
I'll check that out.
You could have a townhouse there where you're looking at the water, $500,000.
That would be a wonderful thing. And if you know people there or in Vegas, I would be very glad to get their numbers to talk to them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have properties actually up in Oxnard too.
Guys, this is a
all
good
about
conversation, and I'm happy we're doing this. It's almost like therapy, as we're all trying to figure out what our next migration path is. And I'm not here to say don't buy something. I'm just saying if you are willing to pay that premium, the lifestyle is great. But based upon those three issues, regulation, homeless, and taxes, if you could overlook those things, I still love LA. But I'm just saying I'm looking a little further down the road. Porter Ranch. Consider that place. What about Porter Ranch? What do you think about Porter Ranch, Nathaniel?
Porter Ranch has a lot of growth in it, a lot of new builds. If you like new builds and gated communities, you're great with Porter Ranch. They're putting a lot of stores and things in there. Something that's interesting about Porter Ranch is previously it was seen as so far out, but so many people are now moving to Santa Clarita that Porter Ranch is now kind of almost like a major infill project, where the schools are good, it's clean, it's quiet. I think the problems of the valley, similar problems of the valley floor, will push up there, but because so much of it is gated and private, it's going to be encased a little bit from a lot of the issues that it's running into. A lot of people are moving there though. It's a big place. If you're going to be in a new build, you either have to be in Santa Clarita, Porter Ranch, or there's one new build section in West Hills of a couple hundred homes. But if you want brand new, that's it. You got to go there.
There you go. All right. Hey, that's a whole wrap today. Well, we did a lot. It was nice to have Ryan Blair. Nathaniel, great stuff. What would you like to do next week, Nathaniel?
Next week, we're going to talk about more focus on the move to small towns. We're going to talk about 1031 exchanges, a little bit more about investments and how to leverage those investments, not pay taxes on them, how to make the most from your investments, and how to, if you want to, move your money out of real estate without having to pay capital gains. So there's some great strategies that are coming up. We have some experts talking to us about that.
By the way, at 7 o'clock, if you guys want to hang out, Jeff Hoffman, the guy who created Priceline and UBID, is going to be with us for an hour, and I'm really excited about that. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock is Brendan Kane. If you want to get 1 million followers on your social media, that is what he does. So that's today.
I'm in for both those.
Yeah, hang out with both of those. And everyone, thank you so much. Unmute yourself and thank Nathaniel for putting this on.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks,
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Nathaniel.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.